Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Notre Dame Primetime Live here at the Voice of College Football in Notre Dame. I am your host, Ryan Fravel, back with my co hosts, Ben and Sean. And, we got a special guest joining us today from the Voice of College Football Miami. We got our boy Jaden. It is officially game week. So we brought Jaden on here to kind of break down the game, preview it a little bit, kind of give our predictions and thoughts. First things first, obviously, it's been a long off season. It's finally game week. How are each of you feeling? Go ahead. You can go ahead first, Jaden, if you want.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Look, on campus right now, there's a lot of tension. Everyone's excited. We're kind of just waiting to get to Sunday. That kind of buildup is there. Everyone's kind of just waiting for the game. I mean, there's a lot of optimism down in Coral Gables right now, with the fact that it's at home and like the way that the fans have reacted to it. They're expecting this is going to be probably one of the biggest games we're ever going to see on a college campus. So we're excited. We're all ready. Like, this is on campus. You're seeing it. It's like we're seeing it's like the biggest game, at least of my college experience.
Show off your turnover chain.
I wish I had it.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, we're ready for the weekend. Notre Dame, Miami, Catholics versus convicts. You can't get much better than that. It's away or home. I think something that a lot of people don't talk about. We talk about the history of the matchup, which is important, but I think we can agree that this is a different Miami team than the years past, and this is a different Notre Dame team in the years past. And in sense of, for both programs, better and worse. So I think that it's going to be a dogfight. Those who say it's going to be a blowout, it's. I could see a team winning by 2 scores, but getting a score late to ice the game. Like, it's not going to be 38-41-6, right? It's going to be a good game, but the anticipation's there. I mean, I'm getting the itch again. It took me a while to get over the national championship, so. But I'm getting the itch. I'm ready to start going. I saw the depth chart. You see CJ Carr. You're just ready for the season to start and just see how this team is going to, put metal to ass on the field, Ben.
Yeah, the big week, I kind of think this is the beginning of what we're going to see. I think Miami's going to be a top team.
Ben, your mic's going out a little bit.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, I think Miami's got to be a team in the college football playoffs. I think Notre Dame will be a team in the college football playoffs. I think this is going to be one of those games where we're going to be like, well, how good are both these teams? We're going to go look back at week one. I think it's going to be a really close game. I could definitely see this game being like a one-possession game. Like, it's got to be who makes the right calls.
This could be the difference between a team hosting a playoff game or being on the road. Or, I mean, I do agree
that a bye.
Yeah. Both these teams could make the playoffs. You could argue it's tough. You could argue this game's bigger for Notre Dame because of how early they have these 2 games, and after that, the schedule isn't as big. Whether you could say this is big for Miami to prove that they either belonged last year or that they just need to win a big game to start momentum for the season. Because if they do lose this, they're not out of it. But this is a pretty big must-win for both teams. Both teams don't need to win it, but it's pretty much a must-win for both teams.
Yeah, I'm in the boat that Notre Dame probably needs to win this one more, just because then if they lose this game, they have less margin for error than Miami does, because
the ACC
Notre Dame not being in the ACC, we can't pull a Clemson and go 9-3, get in the ACC championship and win it and get an auto bid. We have to go 10-2 bare minimum to get in. So yeah, I agree with that. From the excitement, like, the last time this game was played was back in 2017. I get reminded of it. I've been reminded of it the last 3 months.
That was one of the worst games.
We played them in 2017. I forgot.
Oh yeah. How could you forget?
Yeah. I felt you were serious for a second. I was like,
yeah.
I remember sitting in front of my TV. I was telling my wife today that was just one of those games where you just had the game on the whole night and you were just sitting there like this the whole night, just watching.
Yeah,
nothing good.
I'm glad I don't remember that game.
That was a weird one because
Yeah.
it felt like Notre Dame was gaining momentum, and that was a year that Miami was just barely beating like unranked teams at the time. Like there were like 3 straight weeks that they were barely beating teams. So
Yeah.
really, like my confidence level was through the roof, and then just
Well,
out of
both teams
nowhere.
that year, realistically, they were very inconsistent.
Didn't
Miami
Miami lose the
blows
week
out.
after?
They lost to an unranked Pitt team the very next week.
Yeah.
Notre Dame a few weeks later got blown out by Stanford.
Yeah.
Like not a good Stanford team either. So it was just a weird year for both teams, but I'm glad we get this game back. I don't necessarily know if it still has the same rivalry, tensions, disdain for each other, at least for the players, because this game hasn't been played consistently for a very long time. But it is something that, especially with USC seeming like they're backing out of the rivalry, it'd be nice to maybe get Miami on the schedule more regularly and kind of reignite that. But yeah, I mean, what Jaden, what like you just kind of you're a newer Miami fan, but
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on the rivalry and the meaning of this
Um,
game just in general?
Although I am newer to the fan base, the one game I am reminded of constantly is 2017. That is probably the game that has lived in every current Miami fan's mind for the rest of their life, because in the Hard Rock Stadium era at for Miami, it's the loudest crowd that Miami's ever had. They had game day that year. It was the game for Miami fans. They wanted they were bringing in the 30 for 30 and all that. So all the Miami fans got juice for that game. And you're constantly reminded about how much it mattered to at least the Miami fans. So to the fans, yeah, they don't like Notre Dame. Let me be real here. They don't like Notre Dame. You see it seeing it on social media a lot right now. But they want to I've had discussions in my in my shows where they're basically saying we'd rather have the 2 or 3 losses in the ACC, don't even win the championship if we beat Notre Dame. If we beat Notre Dame, we beat the other games that we have on our schedule, because that's how big of a rivalry game they see it as.
If it was me, I'd rather win the ACC for the first
Look,
time.
of course, I agree, but
Well, you got to remember, most of those Miami fans, they also have never seen them win the ACC, so it's kind of
Never,
like,
but I will say this. I understand that aspect. I mean, there's always people who say, if I'm 0 and if my rival's 11-1 and I'm 1-11 and I beat my rival, I'm happy. So I understand those types of mindsets. But I've always been a team success.
Yeah, but if you beat your rivals and you beat Notre Dame, you beat UF and FSU, but then your 2 losses are to like Pitt and Virginia Tech, I feel like as a Miami fan, you're saying like I'd rather have the rivalry wins, because this is a team that probably wouldn't make the playoff or wouldn't win in the playoffs anyway. So I'd rather have the wins, and I'd rather have the bragging rights over the 3 teams that that we're always thinking about.
Do you think this team is built to win in the playoffs?
It's all dependent on what I see week 1. There's 2 things that the biggest concerns for Miami. It's obviously quarterback at Carson Beck, how he plays and how much worse is he to Cam Ward, and how well the offense plays as compared to they did last season, one of the best offense in football. And then obviously the defense, because the defense has a completely new regime. Everything of what you saw from the Miami defense last year, you kind of have to throw it away, because they have a new DC. They have an entirely new defensive back room, entirely new secondary. Everything is different with that Miami defense, and we won't really know what to expect from them until Sunday.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most excited about for this game is I think both teams have top 5 to 10 offensive line groups in college football. And I think both groups have top 25 defensive line groups in college football. So the trenches are very similar. And we'll talk about this later, but it's really going to come down to either coaching or just overall depth at positions. But yeah, I agree. I think that something I've been seeing on Beck, the last thing I heard about Beck, I want to see what you've heard about this. Brock Purdy said he had a very similar injury. It's pretty similar to Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
And it gets to a point unless you're ramping up for the season, when you start throwing 20 to 30 times a game, especially for your first game in a long time, it starts to affect you, right? Have they been ramping him up enough to throw the ball, or what have you heard about?
So from everything that we hear from fall camp, Mario Cristobal keeps everything very close tight from what at least everything. But when we do watch Carson Beck play, he's been under the impression he's been good to go from the get, even from from the start of summer to right now, that he's been fully healthy, he's 100% ready to go, and that he will be like no restrictions for him entering Sunday.
Good.
So from what we see from Carson Beck, I know that he's still got at least. I mean, I'm higher on Carson Beck than a lot of people are, mainly because of what he did in that 2023 season, where he proved that he could be a very solid starting quarterback, and he did it against like very good SEC defenses across the league. And he's, I know Notre Dame's a very good defense, but over the course of the season, at least for Carson Beck, I expect him to have a similar year to that year because of he's playing ACC defenses.
Yeah, you could argue this is the hardest game either on both teams' schedule or Miami's schedule.
Absolutely.
I think this is big for Notre Dame fans too, Ryan, that all the people said that, Notre Dame's playoff run, they didn't play Carson Beck. They played Gunnar Stockton. And a lot of people have the impression that Gunnar Stockton wasn't why they lost the game. He beat Texas, right? There was still a very good quarterback that Notre Dame beat and a good team that Notre Dame beat. But this is a redemptive game for Notre Dame because – hey, we if we beat Miami, it's hey, we beat Gunnar Stockton and we beat Carson Beck. I mean, do you have that feeling too?
Yeah, I think, and then we'll kind of use this to kind of transition into the quarterback situation for both teams. But to answer your question, I disagreed with the whole, because I've even had Miami fans say it on Twitter, like, oh, you guys beat Georgia without Beck. And I'm like, if you watch the game, Beck doesn't make Dylan Bell catch a touchdown pass. Beck doesn't make his offensive line not get killed by third-string edge rushers. Beck doesn't, prevent Notre Dame from returning the opening kickoff out of halftime. Like, there's a lot of stuff that even if Georgia had Beck in that game, doesn't change.
Agreed.
So that's just why I think to me, it's a casual take because Georgia fans will admit that they thought Stockton was better than Beck heading into that game.
He beat
Texas. Better for the offense. And there was a lot of frustration from Georgia fans with Beck last year. So you could also call it bias from them.
They could have lost more games than they did.
Gunnar Stockton also led more scoring drives on the other side on his own 50 that started on his own 50 than Carson Beck did against Texas. Carson Beck didn't have a single scoring drive against Texas that started on his own 50. On his side of 50.
Last year, it was very surprising because it went from Carson Beck's going to be a first-round quarterback to a lot of people started to turn on him last year. So
which again, it's not all on his fault. No. His receivers last year at Georgia were
the offensive line was atrocious.
Yeah. The Georgia receivers led the league in drops. His group had Arian Smith, who was notably dropping everything. Their running back group didn't live up to that hype with ETN and the guys that they had there. It's not 2023. I mean, he had Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. Miami doesn't have Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers, but he does have. I agree. I would argue that he has a better offense. He's a better offensive line than he did last year. He has a better running back group than he does. Receiver, I'm not totally sure, but in terms of offensive line and running back, he's got better groups than he did last season.
Yeah, and the OC is better. Shane Dawson's better than Mike Bobo as an OC. So getting to the quarterback situation for both teams, we talked a lot about Carson Beck. I know, Jaden, you mentioned the concern about his injury, the surgery that he had. From a Miami fan's perspective, I haven't really heard a lot of Miami fans kind of talk about this. I haven't really heard a lot of national media people talk about this when they break this game down. But for us as Notre Dame fans, we were kind of in the same situation this time last year with Riley heading into Texas A&M. He missed all of spring camp because he had 2 surgeries for the injury he suffered against Notre Dame the year prior. So he had only fall camp to learn an entire new system, work with new receivers, learn an entirely different offense. And he had to go play a top 25 team on the road week 1. And we saw early on in that season for us the disconnect between him and the receivers. It really came to show against NIU that they just had no chemistry whatsoever.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you brought it up because I've never heard a Miami fan bring it up yet, but before. Is there any concern with that at all? Because he's not at Georgia anymore. It is a new offensive system. It's new weapons, new players around him. Is there any concern with that?
Yeah, one of the things that was mentioned during fall camp was that Beck it almost seemed like he needed more time to kind of build those chemistries with his receivers and his receiving group. The receiving group is also kind of rotational, and the wide receiver two in the slot at the moment. So they're not like these solidified guys that they had last year. They have CJ Daniels, he's the X, but their Y and their Z have kind of been fluctuating between guys. So Beck has one of the things that you see in fall camp is that Beck has to be, learn where his receivers are going to be. He's trying to make some timing throws, and he has to just try to, work on those kind of plays. And that is something that you probably will see week one. You might maybe see some concern there. But I do. One of the reasons I think Miami even has a chance in this game is because of their running back group. I think their running back group is going to probably lead the way, which will make trying to make Carson's back life easier for over the course of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You nailed it on the head. I've said for weeks that the winner of this game isn't going to throw the ball. If either team, or if it's a shootout, has to throw the ball, the team who runs the ball better wins, right?
Yeah.
We gave our opinion on Beck. You gave your opinion on Beck. Now we'll flip the coin. How do you feel about what's everyone thinking with a first-time starter at Notre Dame? Do they know anything about C.J. Carr and his history? What are your opinions on C.J. Carr before Ryan, Ben, and I dig in on that?
So the debate that we had kept wondering was how confident Notre Dame even felt about him, because every report that you said kept saying that Marcus Freeman was 50-50 between him and Kenny Minchie. From what I know about CJ Carr, was the main thing was he had the higher potential. He was a better at throwing. He could make better throws. He can make deeper throws. He was better in those kind of regards. But it was more of like the way that we've been processing CJ Carr is that this is a redshirt freshman that's making, really his first start in a crazy environment. That the hope is that the Miami crowd and the home field advantage is going to play a role and is going to rattle the quarterback, similar to the way that it was in 2017. That's kind of just been the thought process with it. That regardless of who is at quarterback, that the rattle that it could rattle whoever's at quarterback with the advantage that Miami has with the crowd and the revamped defense and a great defensive line, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and for me, like I'll go first here, and then I'll kind of let Sean and Ben kind of get us. The biggest thing that I've noticed is there's just kind of been this shift from this time spring, right after spring camp, where it seemed like Carwood had won the job. He outplayed Kenny in the spring game. He outplayed Stephen Jelly, who was then, made to transfer to Syracuse, where he's going to be the starting quarterback there. And it seemed to me like a lot of the media at this time in spring was like, really confident that Notre Dame could beat Miami, and then they weren't worried about the quarterback situation. Now, because of fall camp, and you hear it's too close to call. Both Carr and Minchie are really even. You hear Marcus Freeman in his presser today talk about it was really close to the point where we had to go with things that just weren't stats and football related to decide. One of those being he felt Carr gave him the best chance to handle that atmosphere and do the things that they need to do to win that magnitude of a game. So for me, I do think the Carr thing, while quarterback is the most important position in football, and I think it's a fair point to bring up, first time starting quarterback. He's a redshirt freshman starting on the road at night at Hard Rock Stadium against a top 10 team. It can go bad. I think it's somewhat naive for these college football experts and other people to just kind of only pick Miami to win that game because of the Carr situation. Because Notre Dame had, in our opinion, Notre Dame has a national championship caliber roster surrounding him. And to me, that's most freshman quarterbacks for the first time don't have that, right? So that to me is like something that like he has Jeremiah Love in the backfield to lean on. He has Darian Price in the backfield to lean on. He has Jaden Greathouse, who was arguably outside of Riley Leonard, the MVP of our playoff run late down the stretch. Like he's got guys to lean on, and I think it's more of can Miami put him in the situation where he needs to be to go out there and win the football game. If that can happen, then I think the concerns about Carr, they're serious. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the media and picking because of that reason. A lot of people talk about Miami that they can't fill their stadium often, but a game like this, stadium's going to be sold out. And it's a first-time quarterback. I mean, you have to understand that going on the road against a top 10 team as a freshman redshirt is going to have an impact in some way. So I understand people in media picking Miami for that reason. But I also agree with Ryan on the aspect of this isn't a normal, a freshman quarterback or starting or a redshirt guy starting for a team. When you have arguably the best running back in the country, you have a really good depth at that position, and you have a top 10 O-line like we talked about. As a young quarterback, you don't have to do everything yourself. You just play what you need to do. But something that we have talked about, people like Carr more because of potential, and he's willing to push the ball down the field. Mm-hmm. But he is a little more prone to turnovers, being a young quarterback wanting to push the ball, make the plays and stuff. Those turnovers could be an impactful part of a game why Miami could win or more, because of a quarterback in a game wanting to make a play. He's young. He wants to prove himself. And a veteran like Carson Beck knows, I just need to game manage and get it done. So I get the aspect of having a young quarterback. But I do agree that if we didn't have some of the depth pieces that we have, it'd be a little different. But having the team around him that we have, that's why it evens out. Miami's at home. They got an experienced quarterback, got pieces from the portal. Notre Dame has a really deep roster on a big playoff run, but they have a young quarterback on the road. It evens out on a point. So while I still will talk about picks, would pick Notre Dame, and we'd give our reasons, but I do think that it is cause for concern if you're a national media member who probably doesn't cover Notre Dame every day. You're just like, wow, Notre Dame is having a young quarterback on the road against Miami. So, Ben?
Yeah, if this ends up being a game where we have to throw the ball, I could definitely see it being like, CJ Carr is going to have to go out there and make throws for the first time. So I see the reason why they do that. This could end up being a game where we have to throw the ball. We don't really know. One thing we talk about a lot is like Miami. We don't think Miami's got to be able to just stack the box and beat us. Like they're just going to key on the run because we think we're going to be able to make their plays to wide receiver. But that also means we're going to be trusting in our freshman, our redshirt freshman who's never played a snap in college football to make big plays. So it wouldn't shock me if that could be a reason we lose. I think at the end of the day, we don't lose this game if it's a running game. I think we lose this game if it's a game where we have to if we need CJ Carr to make 30 plus throws. I hope we don't get to that. I don't know if we'll get to that just because I see Miami accepting the same thing we do. We both think it's got to be a running game. I could definitely see Miami, like they spend so much money on the O-line. They spend so much money on getting a top running back. I don't see them, and not saying Carson Beck isn't like, they also spent money on Carson Beck, but I don't see them being like, okay, they could run the ball they want, but we're going to throw the ball. I think they know they're going to have to run the running game because we still have a top defensive back room in the country.
Yeah, if this was later in the season, I think different story. But
I think if this is like week 10, I think we're 8-point favorites. It's just a question mark at quarterback.
I think, you could argue because Carr has the experience, but you could argue that Carson Beck by week 10 is more ramped up than having his first game. Yep. Right. Yeah. So,
but the question is, are we saying, is CJ Carr good enough by week 10? Like, we know who our quarterback is and we know what we're dealing with. Let's just say CJ Carr is like a decent quarterback. I think that's better than what we're going to get out of CJ Carr on Sunday. I think that's what they're predicting, what we're going to get out of CJ Carr.
I think they're not getting, like, my thing with CJ, and we'll kind of move on to the other positions here.
And when I say they spent money, I mean by they spent money to keep talent inside, not spend money going into the portal.
Like CJ, to me, I just don't think that Freeman's going to – I expect Freeman to have the same game plan we had against A&M last year, where it was very conservative. Run, 5-yard out, tunnel screen, bubble screen, layups in the pass game.
At some point.
The thing is, I do think that. I think we didn't take a single shot against A&M. I think you'll see that with him, but I think it would be more of a, hey, Denbrock sees something, Miami stack in the box. They have one-on-one coverage. Hey, Carr, just throw a go ball to Malachi Fields. He's 6'4". You trust that he's going to go out there and out-jump whoever Miami has on him, right? Because he's done that his entire career with worse quarterback play at Virginia.
Before we switch, I do
Yeah.
think it's worth noting that we talked about both defenses and defensive lines being good, but it's also not like this is USC where they have a really good quarterback and their defense is bad and they're going up against the SEC defense. Like,
Yeah.
CJ Carr has practiced all summer against one of the best defensive back rooms in the country. So yeah, he's making these mistakes, but if either Miami, if they are, is as good as Notre Dame's defense, and if they're not, let's say that they're worse than Notre Dame's defense, which we can all agree that Notre Dame has a top 10 in the country. If it's easier than Notre Dame's like we expect it to be, then that could be a CJ Carr like, hey, I played against Notre Dame all offseason.
Yeah.
This could be what I want, you know.
So I do think, kind of finishing off here in the quarterback, I think we're all in agreement. Carson Beck, as of right now, Miami has the edge at quarterback right now, just because of what we know from Carson Beck, the experience. Again, like you had said, Jaden, playing in the SEC against top tier defenses week after week. We just got to, but he's obviously right now Miami has the edge there. I do want to bring up offensive line and defensive line, kind of do those together. I think both Miami and Notre Dame by far have top 10 offensive lines. I do think there's an argument to be made for who's better. I think for me, I think that Notre Dame has a better offensive line just because 3 of the guys that are starting this year started at the beginning of last year, and we made it to the national championship without those guys. Now they're back. The expectation would be we had a great offensive line last year without our starters. We have them this year. Should be better than it was last year. Jaden, kind of like, what are your thoughts on Notre Dame's offensive line versus Miami's? Where would you kind of lean there?
So from what I know of Notre Dame's offensive line, very veteran. They have a lot of very good talent from what I see. Obviously, I see more of the Miami side. I'm going to lean towards Miami because of what I see. They have 4 of their guys from last season that were starting for majority of the season are starting again this season. The only change is at center with James Brockermeyer, transfer from TCU. So Miami has a very veteran offensive line group with a left tackle that is a top 5 potential in CC Mawinoa. They have Markel Bell on the right side. Like, it's it's in the way that Miami's pride is entirely on this offensive line. In my eyes, I think it's easily the best in the ACC, and it's one of the best in the country. I'm going to lean towards Miami. I do know Notre Dame is an excellent offensive line, but just from what I saw last season with the way that they played with Cam Ward, I expect it to be as good this season.
Yeah, I would, and I'm going to get so much hate for this, and this isn't a knock. And I think both teams have very, very good offensive line. I think the difference is Notre Dame has a veteran group, but like you talked about, Ryan, there was a few of them that missed that playoff run. While Miami's group stayed pretty together last season. Miami has a top 5 offensive line in college football. I think Notre Dame does too. I would say I could see, I want to say 50-50, but if I'm choosing one, I would say Miami 55-45. But then if we talk about the defensive line on that aspect, I think it's like 65-35 Notre Dame, and maybe even 70. But just because I think the depth that Notre Dame has, right? I think Notre Dame is going to rotate guys more and be able to stay fresh, and that's one of my keys to the game. Is I think the depth that Notre Dame has on that defensive line is could tire out Miami's O-line better. So, yes, Notre Dame fans are going to be mad, but I would argue Miami, we're equal, I think, on the offensive line. I do.
Did Notre Dame lose anyone on the defensive line front last season?
They lost two defensive tackles.
Okay.
But both were hurt throughout
Injured.
the year, and we the people that are starting for us this year started and played during the playoff run.
Okay.
So, and we got a transfer from Louisville. We got a lot of depth there. The main aspect for defensive line that we're excited about is the edges. We returned everyone from the edge, and we have 3 deep on each side who played during that playoff run that were freshmen to sophomore that are coming back. And like you have Bryce Young, right? And then you have junior Jordan Botello's healthy, right? So we're the edges.
Traore.
Yeah, it's going to be dirty on the edge for Notre Dame. But yeah,
I would question how much he Botar plays in the Miami game.
You mean Botello?
Botello.
I don't think Botello. Botello is probably.
I could see him getting like depth reps, but I don't see him getting like a majority. Yeah. I see a lot of people saying he might get majority.
I think that's the only reason he's not starting. Right, but
the depth chart came out and said that the depth charts already came out and said for Miami, it's going to be Boubacar
and Bryce Young. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I personally, you were very high on Dawson when we got him, Ryan. I was.
Yeah, he's not going to start.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things where I think that we are just more of like accepting it's got to be a rotation of guys in the interior D line.
But I think that's where Notre Dame differs from Miami because I think Miami, of course, is going to rotate guys, but I mean, would you agree that the depth might be a little bit?
I agreed on the depth part, but on the talent part, I was actually going to say Miami. But the depth part, I would agree. But with Miami talent-wise, I mean, they have Ruben Bain, who's AC freshman 2 years ago, got hurt last season, be fully healthy this year. Justin Scott, 5-star defensive tackle who didn't play a whole lot because he was behind a couple guys. David Blay, transfer from Louisiana Tech. Hakeem Mesidor. They have a lot of guys within that defensive line group that I think is solid. And then they have a lot of potential, which maybe not this season, but in future seasons with Hayden Lowe and Armando Blunt. So I would probably give you Notre Dame's defensive line. But honestly, I mean, Miami does have a talented defensive line. They're solid. I can see where you're coming from with that depth. And I think them rotating is going to be a factor. I'm going to agree with that.
Yeah. I would say, like, for me, like, Bain is just because Notre Dame's defensive line, especially their edges, are very young. Like, Bryce Young was a 5-star, but he was a true freshman last year. He played a lot, mainly in the playoff because of injuries, and he played really well. So you're kind of projecting that he takes that next step, right? But Ruben Bain has been a guy that's been solidified and has been a star. So I think if you're talking pure star talent, Miami's defensive line. If you're talking depth and like big game experience in the playoffs, Notre Dame's defensive line.
Yeah,
I would say I think that's what splits it when it comes to if we're gonna say I think Miami's D line's better just because Ruben Bain alone. Like in my opinion, that's what makes them better and like how they say they have Justin Scott. But I think it's still like it's gotta be. I think it's like 53-47%. You know what I mean? Very close.
Yeah. That's still very close.
Yeah,
I think
it's just because of the depth thing. I think it's because we can just rotate. We'll always have a fresh guy out there, assuming, knock on wood, nothing bad happens to you.
I think there's going to be a player on both sides where when the whole country's watching this game that they're going to introduce themselves. Like we know Bryce Young, and a lot of people do, but if Bryce Young has a game like we think we can have, that's where it could be like a Leonard Moore type hype with the nation. And for Miami, they could have a young guy because you did say you had some young pieces on that defensive line that could come in and make a name for themselves.
Who knows? Potential is one of the best defensive line. I mean, that's all potential. You can't really say that. But in terms of star talent, having Justin Scott and Ruben Bain in itself and Hakeem Mesidor and a lot of other guys, that's still a very solid defensive line group.
Justin Scott's a beast.
Yeah.
So I want to read these real quick. We got a couple super chats. Shout out to Falconeer. It seems like he's a Miami fan.
He is. He's our Miami guy.
Miami already won this game in the heads of Notre Dame. And then he sent another one. Miami blowout 2017.
Falconer, you can send as many as you want.
Falcon, you're feeding my gambling addiction as we speak here, Falcon. So just keep sending it.
Falconer's our guy.
Does Notre Dame have a helipad at the stadium?
We do.
Oh.
We do have a helipad at our stadium.
Oh, I thought that was a Kobe Bryant joke. Okay,
No,
go
no,
ahead.
no. We have a running joke on our podcast about bringing more fans to the game via helipad because it's Miami.
That's crazy.
Wait, so I heard through a source there's a Benihana in the Miami Stadium.
At Hard Rock Stadium, potentially.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I keep hearing from these Miami fans like, bro, we have a Benihana. What does South Bend have?
It's Hard Rock Stadium. It's whatever Hard Rock
Stadium. They got like 3 nightclubs, a Benihana.
We have nightclubs. Yeah, we have
Yeah,
nightclubs
that's
there.
insane. Like,
I've never seen a college stadium well, it's not technically a college stadium, but
Are you
like the coolest thing at A&M Stadium was they had cool zones. That was it. Like,
No, we have a club space in our stadium.
That's okay. See, now I know why I have to.
Are we sure Carson Beck's gonna be able to focus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we sure? Because if I were him, like me personally.
Hey man, hey, I get it now. I get why the stadium's half full for most games.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the club.
The moment it starts raining, let's go watch the game at the bar.
So I do want to ask, as
Yeah.
we transition, defensive backs. Notre Dame for the last few years has had one of the best defensive back groups in the country. Miami last year, defensive back room was rough, but you got a lot of talent. Would you get 5 to 6 players in the transfer portal?
Yeah, a ton. It was I mean it was a lot of guys that they had. Look, I said this yesterday. Notre Dame clearly has the edge defensive back. That's without a doubt. Leonard Moore is one of the best defensive backs in the country. They have a lot of guys in that defensive back room. It's incredible. You have a great defensive back room. Miami's is all we don't know. OJ Frederick was their true freshman last season, had a very good season. He was one of their lone bright spots, and he got hurt. You have Damari Brown who's come back from injury. He's a fine player. You have the guys that I'm looking forward to are Michigan State transfer Chuck Brantley. You have Wisconsin transfer Xavier Lucas, who is, that's a whole controversy with the lawsuit and all that. Wazoo transfer Ethan O'Connor. You have Zachariah Poisier from, I believe, Jacksonville State. So they have there's a lot of new guys in that defensive back room. It's deeper now, but you have no idea what that looks like until you see it on Sunday. We have no idea. I like OJ Frederick. I love him a lot. But everyone else outside of it, they're all unproven. They have that kind of we don't know. Just a lot of we don't know, and we won't see it until
Sunday. Ryan, I told you I would have to dip early, so I'm going to have to dip. But before I go ahead,
give us your prediction.
I'm going to give my prediction. I think it's going to be a close game throughout most of the game. I do think it's similar to A&M where we win by 2 scores. I'll give my keys to the game and the reasons. I think Notre Dame wins 27 to 17, that range. I think that it'll be low scoring. I think where I give Notre Dame the advantage is just pure depth. I think Miami starters can compete with us. I think it's going to come to a certain point of a game like the Texas A&M game where the depth just in the fourth quarter when the starters are fresh and Miami's could be gassed. It's the crowd's going to really have to energize Miami up. I think that Carson Beck's going to make some plays, but I do think that the defensive back room for Notre Dame is so strong that they just, even throughout the playoffs, it's hard to get open on Notre Dame's defense. And I prefer Notre Dame's running backs, and I think that's the key to the game too. So I think the running the ball, like we've talked about, whoever runs the ball more, and I do feel like that would be Notre Dame. And I just think that the depth that Notre Dame has is going to be why they win. So, so I'm picking Notre Dame, obviously. Who would have thought? But I think it's going to be a great game. What do y'all think before I go?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. We'll get into our predictions here a little later, but yeah, I'm kind of in the same thought process as you. But
well, it was nice meeting you. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Good luck on Sunday.
All right, so kind of a few more.
Holy crap!
Yeah, that was zoomed in.
It zoomed in on my ugly face, bro. Shit.
All right,
actually, let's keep it like this so you can't see the dungeon in the background.
Yeah, there you go. So getting kind of finished rounding out these left final positions, we got receiver and I'm going to say linebacker. I'm kind of interested to talk about receiver a little bit because this is one of the few times, especially in the Freeman era, that I can confidently say that Notre Dame has a better receiver room just based off of pure production than the team that they're facing. Like we played Ohio State 3 years in a row, didn't even have it anywhere close to the receiver room that they had. And then, even you could argue like even Georgia, Arian Smith for his dropping issues was able to get open a lot. He just, for some reason, when he was at Georgia, couldn't catch. But now in the NFL, he can catch everything that's thrown his way. Doesn't make sense. But so, like, I do want to kind of, like, I know a lot of Miami fans are talking about your true freshman receiver. I'm blanking on the kid's
Malachi
name.
Tony.
Yeah, Malachi Tony, who's evidently been killing it in camp.
Yep.
So I'm excited. Like, what are your thoughts on your guys' receiver room and kind of like the difference between your guys' receiver room and Notre Dame's?
I'm very high on CJ Daniels, the former Liberty, who's great at Liberty. When he went to LSU, got hurt a little bit, kind of was, shadowed by a couple of the LSU guys. He's still a very talented receiver, tall, can make some really nice catches. But outside of that, it's something that you're kind of like, I don't really know what I'm going to be expecting other than what I hear in fall camp. You have Josiah Trader, who's the expected guy on the wide receiver too. I personally think he's a fantastic player, but year one he didn't play a whole lot. He got the most he played was in the Pop-Tart Bowl, and he played fantastic. So he's a great, in my opinion, he's a great player. Yeah. But he was a solid, like, he's.
We're not making that face about you. We're making a face about the comment that just came.
Yeah.
But I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. This podcast should be 3 dudes in their basement and 1 dude in paradise.
I'm not even in a basement, man. I got an office.
No, I am in paradise. I am in paradise, guys.
Yeah, he's the one in paradise.
Southeastern Indiana's paradise.
Yeah. And then in the slot guy, it's obviously there's a lot of different guys that could be. We don't really know what the official depth chart looks like. There's Tony Johnson, the transfer. There's Ray Joseph. There's Chris Malachi Tony, of course, and then Joshua Moore, the 2 true freshmen. During camp, the main talk of the town was Malachi Tony because he's making some incredible plays. But again, it's fall camp. Fall camp it's hard to really decipher what is good and what's bad in fall camp, especially when a lot of it is like you're just watching each other practice against each other. So you don't really know what you're looking at. So I'm going to give Notre Dame the edge. I think Jane Greathouse, from what I saw, at least, he was fantastic in the college football playoff. You made some nice transfer moves as well. You have a lot of good guys there. I mean, you have Will Pauling and Malachi Fields that enter. So you have a lot of great talent there. And then you have even at tight end with Eli Raridon. So you have guys. You definitely beat us in that receiver group. Tight end, maybe I'd give it to Miami. It's a little bit odder with tight end because Miami has Alex Bowman, the transfer from Tulane, and Elijah Lofton, who I'm super high on. So it's they're probably gonna have to rely actually more on their tight ends, I would say, than their receiver group, at least early on.
Yeah. Ben, your thoughts on the receiver rooms for both sides?
Yeah. I know about CJ Daniels. I really liked him at LSU last year. I thought he'd be really good last year at LSU. Of course, the injuries stopped that. I am actually a UC student, so I know a decent amount about Tony Johnson. Is he supposed to play this year?
He was he entered when he transferred. He was like the projected slot guy. But
okay,
if you would play college football right now, if he would have loaded up, he'd be the slot guy. But most Miami reporters probably honestly would say Malachi Tony takes this.
Okay, I'm going to say this: if Tony Johnson's playing, you're going to have to practice a UC method of dealing with Tony Johnson. You're just going to have to sit there and say, "I'm not going to let the 21-year-old affect my life decisions," because Tony Johnson, he's a great player. He's so athletic. He's so good at it's just the mental game. It's not there. It's not. I'm not even going to say he's not in the film room because it was said at UC that he was a big film guy. It was just certain things, when he went up against top level corners. He just could not show up, and that might have been the fact that UC had Brandon Sorsby, even though I don't think Sorsby's that bad. But there were certain things in there where Tony Johnson. That's why I think if Tony Johnson plays against us, I think we do well. But like you said, I don't think he'll play against us. Yeah. He doesn't seem like the slot guy right now, at least where I could see from Miami people why I ask about it. I think we have the advantage just because like Jane Greyhouse, Malachi Fields, I think we have the proven advantage. I do think Miami, they have the guys like there. They have the ability to have guys there and play well, but it's a question of how long will it take for that to be in full effect. And the big thing is we saw it last year with Riley Leonard, bringing in a transfer quarterback, bringing in transfer wide receivers. There's a lot of connection that needs to be made there. That's why realistically, I said that we didn't see the true Riley Leonard until like the Virginia game. Like because it took Riley Leonard was a little different, but there's mistakes that are gotta be made there because you don't have the connection of playing with each other for 2 or 3 years, or even a whole season beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm in the same boat. Like I'm a big great house guy, as Ben can say. First round pick here, in my opinion, for 1,000-yard receiver this year. Notre
Dude,
Dame's
you
first.
gotta stop saying
man.
that.
I'm
great.
high on him,
He's
man.
great.
He's great. He's a great college receiver.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Like,
Again,
what was it,
I'm
that
high
Penn
on him.
State game in the Orange Bowl? Yeah, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like
he's
I just look at it like you don't just randomly cook two of the best defenses in college football on the biggest stage and not carry that into the next year. And
Oh
at
no, I think
least,
he'll be great.
like
I think he'll be great this year. It's just that you're saying he's a first round pick.
I think if he has like
we
1,000
we
plus
got
yards,
to be realistic.
hey man, I'm shooting high, man.
Like I don't think he's better than Matthew Golden. Yeah.
But yeah, that's so. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Though. I think Miami's got talented receivers in the room. CJ Daniels, I think he's really good. I liked him at Liberty. I just think that he went to, he had the injury, but also LSU has so many weapons in that receiver room. You're like fighting for reps. It's going to be hard for any singular receiver that's not Justin Jefferson or Malik Neighbors to get their fill. So I think Miami's going to have a great offense and great offensive weapons again. I just think that you got to obviously go with the experience and guys that have played like Jane Greathouse, biggest national championship, college football playoff. Yeah, getting to linebackers. I know this one might be a little tighter.
Are we counting Ruben Bain as a linebacker or as edge rusher?
No.
Okay. Well, see, the problem is all these Miami fans are like, you guys think you have better linebackers? Ruben Bain's got to be a first rounder. I'm like, is Ruben Bain a linebacker? Like, maybe like outside linebacker, edge rusher, but like.
I've tried to tell Ben this. There are some Miami fans that I don't think actually
watch football.
Yeah. Like, and understand the positions. But like
none of them ever come on here. I want to make that clear. We only hear from them when we play Miami.
Yeah, they think Ruben. They told us Ruben Bain was a linebacker, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. But Jane, what are your thoughts on the linebacker position? I know you guys got Wesley Saint, who's really good. Yeah.
So so linebacker is tough. I know that Notre Dame has a very good linebacker group. They're always consistently producing very good linebackers. I'm not totally familiar on how great specifically they are. We were talking about it yesterday about some of the guys that you guys had that they are very talented. From the Miami side, at least, Wesley Bissaint now is a senior. He had a great year last year. He was kind of one of the lone bright spots on that defense. He was making some big hits, some nice tackles. He's got a nice nose for the ball. He's a solid player. He's probably going to lead our team in tackles. And then probably the biggest guy that I'm most excited for is Muhammad Torrey, the graduate student transfer from Rutgers. So he's torn his ACL twice, 2022 and 2024. But in the lone year, 2023, he had Corey Heatherman, our current defensive coordinator, as the linebacker coach. And in that season, he had his best career, like best year of his career. He was like almost all Big Ten kind of level of play. He was a fantastic player. But he has 2 torn ACLs. The injury concern is there. But the reports in practice are that he's moving well and he's playing fine. If he does play to the level he did in 2023, I think he's a solid, fantastic player. I might give Notre Dame a slight edge on linebackers, but it's kind of close.
Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong. We have Bowen, we have Sneed, we have KVA, we have
Osbury.
Oh my God, Osbury.
Sneed.
Sneed. Well, yeah, we have 4 guys: Bowen, Sneed, Osbury, KVA. Those are our 4 linebackers. I think we'll see in a rotation.
And Madden Faremo is going to play a decent amount.
I think we'll see him play a lot, but I'm saying like the more like we're gonna have 3 out there guaranteed. I think it'll be a rotation between those 4. I would say when I ranked, like when I was putting together my rankings, like with the whole like Notre Dame versus Miami, there were there were two ones that like completely the position wise we were just better at, and I can't like give like it's just obvious. Running back, cornerback, the third thing which was closer was linebacker, in my opinion. I think that's where we're extremely that I think we're better at to where it's like it would be like Miami has to show us something on Sunday for me to say it's closer. But I would say linebackers, I would say we're better just because depth and like the ability just to rotate guys in. And that's one thing about this Notre Dame defense. They have the ability, everything except corner, because I think it'll be Laird Moore, Christian Gary the whole time. Um, I think they have the ability just to rotate guys out, get fresh legs out there and ready to play. Um, but Miami was closer to that than on running backs and corners. So I would say that we're probably 75% and then Miami 25%, maybe 70-30 when it comes to
I
that.
agree with that. I could agree with that. I will say though with running back, it's look, you're right. I mean, Jeremiah Love's the best running back in the country, and you have the best one of the best RB2s in the country. You have a great running back group. It's the best in college football. Miami, in my opinion, has a top 25 RB room with Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, and Shamar Brown, and the guys they have waiting in the wings. In my opinion, they're incredible with the way that they move with each other. So much as I agree that Notre Dame has the better running back group, you can definitely see that Miami has a quality running back room and is going to produce in a similar, maybe on Sunday that they may produce at a similar quality with the way that Miami has their offensive line.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I think Miami, the big thing with running back is it's just Notre Dame. They have a top 3 running back group. It's not, I don't want to like diss Miami's running back group because I think they're really, really good. Yeah. It's one of the things I think could lead the Miami win this game. I think if they're able to run the ball, it's got to set Miami up to win this game because at the end of the day, we put Christian Gray on the island. Like me and Ryan talked about it. He has a lot of mental mistakes. Not saying those can't get fixed in an offseason, but I think just it's because Notre Dame's probably, if they're not the best or second best, I know Penn State fans are going to argue that theirs is the best. But
I would say you're the best. I would say you're the best.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just hard to put that like because Miami, I put them probably in the top 15, like maybe 17, 18 area. Like lowest I would go is probably 20. They're definitely top 20 in my opinion. Okay. It's just one of those things where you're just separation.
Yeah. I get it. Totally get it.
Yeah. So with linebacker and running back for me, like linebacker for me, I'm going to go Notre Dame just mainly because we rotate a lot. And I think depth-wise, Notre Dame we have a lot of playoff experience in that linebacker core. We lost, Jack Kaiser, who was an emotional leader and a team captain. That's obviously a big loss. But the thing with Jack Kaiser is he was a 60-year guy, and losing him, obviously, you lose some leadership, right? But in turn, you also put a more athletic guy in KVA who takes his spot, who was a 5-star linebacker coming out of high school, highly coveted from Notre Dame, Ohio State, and USC. So, and he played a lot as a true freshman last year. You bring in Madden Faremo, who was another top 50, linebacker from the state of California. Again, Notre Dame, USC, Ohio State, the top 3 for him. Notre Dame got him. So I think that linebacker room just to me is more depth. Jaden, how much do you guys rotate? I know you guys didn't rotate a lot last year. Is the expectation that Heatherman's going to more rotate, kind of keep fresh bodies?
So the way that his system of his 4-2-5 works is that it's heavy on a lot of rotation of linebackers. So it's going to move between. They might also bring in some safeties to play linebacker, but Mohamed Toure, Wesley Bissant, they have Popo Aguirre, Chase Smith. They have guys there. Are they as talented or as good as the Notre Dame is? I would probably say no, because a lot of these guys are returning from last season, and if they were as good as they were last season, then the linebacker group would be good. And their best player they had Kiko Maui Noah as like their main linebacker, and I'll say this: he's a good leader, but other than that, he wasn't like a necessarily elite level linebacker to me.
Yeah, and the same thing with running back. Like we lost Kedron Young. Sounds like to the season. Was it I think it was an MCL or ACL. I can't remember. But most running back rooms, you lose a guy like Kedron Young. Mind you, Kedron Young was running back 4. If he was most other places, he was a top 5 running back in his class.
Can we just point out how insane Gabriel Payne is not
Jabron Payne, like he's
Jabron
he's not.
Payne's not running back 4. No, like not to cut you off, Ryan, but
Yeah, no.
how far does the drop like for just so I explain here? He scored the first touchdown against Ohio State, or his first touchdown for us against Ohio State, and then he's running back 4 2 years later. Not even running back 4, running back 5. Yeah, he was RB2 against
just
Ohio
a few years
State.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. But go ahead with what you were talking.
He got overtaken by Jeremiah Love. He got
and then
overtaken
Jadarian
by
Price, and then Aeneas Williams.
And now he's getting overtaken by Nolan James, who's a true freshman. Like it's just, I really don't understand why he hasn't transferred, but that just speaks.
He must love that degree so much. That degree, or maybe he's holding out. I don't know.
But yeah, like that, we could honestly go 6 deep in the running back room, which is just insane. But yeah, and also you got Jeremiah Love, so I think that just kind of by itself is Notre Dame the edge. Now we're gonna get into our keys to the game and our picks and predictions here in a second. But first, we're gonna play some words from our boy Mark at the Voice of College Football. So let's get through it.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now. You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
Thanks, Mark, for that. All right, now on to predictions and keys to the game. First things first, we'll start with you, Jaden. What are your keys to the game? Things that have to happen for Miami to win this football game on August 31st.
The first thing I've said this a billion times, they have to contain the run game. And I mean, contain is in like 150 yards, like contain in some regard. If you can limit Jeremiah Love enough so that it forces CJ Carr to have to step up and make big plays, that's probably the biggest take, is that the defense has to show something. Last season was an utter train wreck, disaster. If they can show any semblance of life as a defense and they can contain the best running back in the country in a level that it forces CJ Carr to have to make some big throws in a loud environment, a loud crowd. It's also being that you have to rattle CJ Carr early. If you rattle CJ Carr early, make him uncomfortable, it will definitely help. It'll give momentum to Carson Beck, make his life a little bit easier. And then the last thing for me is you have to run the ball. They have to win the trenches. They have to play their best ball. Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, Tramar Brown, the wall of mirror ball that is nicknamed, the offensive line, has to play at its highest level for Miami to win. And Carson Beck has to be a game manager. If the run game plays to the level that it should or needs to, then Carson Beck doesn't have to do the boneheaded moves he made a lot last season. He just has to be a game manager. Again, one thing that is kind of we want over the course of the season is that we don't want the media to then have to start comparing Carson Beck to Cam Ward and be like, oh, if Cam Ward was on this team, how would Miami look? I want it to be where Carson Beck just does his job. He plays his football because, look, he's not Cam Ward. Cam Ward's the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He had an incredible arm talent. He's a credible player. Carson Beck's not that. He's still a good quarterback. So you have to, embrace the run game. If the run game plays to its level, makes Carson Beck's life easier, help him out in that kind of regard.
Yep. All right, Ben, what are your keys to the game?
I think the big keys for Notre Dame to win, they're going to have to show that they can still have a dominant run game. I think we have to, and not saying that we can't trust CJ Carr, but it's just, if I were to say what's our most likely way of winning, we're going to have to rush for probably 150 plus yards, like combined total. If it's Jerry and Price and Jeremiah Love, 75 plus each, or if it's something like Jeremiah Love takes a heavy load and he gets a lot of rushing yards. I think we're going to have to make Miami throw the football, and we're going to have to make them challenge Leonard more. I think if they do that, I think we'll get, if we make Miami be in a lot of 3rd and 7 situations, I think we're able to handle that, like 3rd and long. Anything 3rd and short, that's where we're going to be. We're going to have to get fresh feet out there. We're going to have to get fresh guys and get them going and going straight towards the running back. And we have to limit turnovers. One big thing that I think that we can do is that we don't fumble the ball that much. Our running backs don't. We're going to have to make sure CJ Carr does not turn the ball over, which I don't know if he will, but it's just easier said than done if we just say don't turn the ball over, because we give Miami that boost of energy. It could, like we saw in 2017, that pick 6 like completely made it impossible for us to win at that point because it was so loud. We had problems, and that's another thing. Communication too. Miami's got to be loud. We have to make sure we find a way to get through that and communicate well. We can't have false starts. We saw it with Miami. We saw it with Georgia back when we had Ian Book. We saw it in A&M. We did pretty well at it, and not having.
We didn't have many false starts in that game.
Yeah, I don't think we had. Yeah, so I think it will be a lot of that, like communication. Make sure that we don't get false starts. Don't do the stupid things, which we haven't shown that we can do. But if we start doing that now, all of a sudden, then there's got to be a problem. So don't do the stupid things, run the ball, and force Miami to be 3rd and long.
Yeah, I'm going to say, but my keys to the game are kind of like what you said. Play within your system. I don't think within the first 2 games you necessarily need Carr to go out there and be Superman. It's concerning if you need Carr to go put the team on his back to win you a football game against Miami and A&M. And that's not a knock on Miami or A&M. It's just you should be able to trust if you're the number 1 offensive line in the country, like Greg McElroy thinks, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to run the ball effectively against Miami, right? Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't need Carr to make the throws on 3rd down and maybe score a touchdown here or 2, complete the easy throws. You don't need him to go be Cam Ward. We don't need you to be 5 touchdown passes, 300 plus yards passing, because that's just not how we're going to go. You don't do that. Right, so I think you need to rely on the running game, rely on Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. I think you need to feed the ball to Jeremiah Love. One thing that JD Bukel came out with his prediction earlier today. He's like, you don't want to get on that bus leaving Miami and have regrets talking about, man, I really wish we would have gave Jeremiah Love more touches. Man, I really wish we would have got Greathouse more touches in the offense. You can't leave that. You have to leave it all on the field and get your best players the ball in space. And the way to do that is get Jeremiah Love the damn football and get the hell out of the way. And I think going for, like you said, don't turn the ball over. One of the reasons Notre Dame made it as far as they did in the playoffs was they won the turnover battle in every single one of their playoff games. There was only one game that they won all of last season that they didn't win the turnover battle. That was against Penn State. The game came down to the last second field goal. If you can win the turnover battle against Miami, chances have shown that from just based off of last season, you're putting yourself in great situations to win. Also, when Carson Beck, because I do think Carson Beck is going to throw. I think he's going to have a pick in this game. If you do get turnovers, turn those into 7, not 3. Make Miami pay for every time they turn the ball over. And then again, on the defensive side, Christian Gray, that's the biggest thing for me. You can't get torched like you did against USC. you can't have mental lapses like you did against Ohio State. You have to. I need to see improvement there, and if so, I mean, if you're not, Carson Hobbs needs to be ready. Dallas Golden needs to be ready, because I think that that's a game that if he's getting torched every single play with, again, a talented receiver core but an inexperienced one, you got to do something to fix that. I think if you do all that, Notre Dame's going to put themselves in a great position to win this game. That kind of leads us to our final topic: game predictions and score predictions. I'll go last. I'll let our guest Jaden go ahead first. Jaden, how do you think this game plays out? What's your final score prediction?
So, I mean, the way I'm looking at it, if you look at the forecast, I mean, look, Miami in the summer, it's always going to rain. So, it's going to rain on Sunday. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be hot and sticky. It's Miami weather. It's going to be a loud crowd. Our student tickets sold out in less than 5 minutes on Sunday. So, we are expecting fully packed Hard Rock Stadium, over 70,000, all in orange. Like, it's going to be one of the biggest games in terms of Miami history in the last few years. So, from that perspective, and then the fact that Miami, is debuting all this, I'm gonna as a Miami fan, I'm gonna say Miami's gonna win 24-21. I think it's gonna be a ground and pound game between both sides. I think it's gonna be neck and neck for the entirety of the game. I think we're gonna see a lot of great run game on both sides. You're gonna probably see a Jeremiah Love 70-yard touchdown at some point. You're probably also gonna see some great runs from Miami, some great overall game. Whoever controls the clock longer probably wins. I might see and whoever makes less mistakes. So I'm thinking maybe a fourth quarter, Miami has a nice drive with like 5 minutes to go for a touchdown or a field goal. And then they force CJ Carr to make a big play. And I don't think he'd be able to do it. I think Miami wins the game.
Ben?
A score prediction, I think it's going to be 17-13. I don't think it'll be a high scoring game.
Ugly football.
Yeah, I think it's got to be very ugly football. I think both these teams, Miami has a lot of passion about this season. They want to show that, like, hey, this is the Miami of the old. This isn't the new Miami where we have a good season and then Tyler Van Dyke comes in and looks like an idiot and switches to wide receiver. They want to prove that they're a top tier school and they know how they're going to be able to do that. If they want to beat Notre Dame, they're going to have to go out there and punch Notre Dame in the mouth. And they're going to have to stop them in their own situation and beat Notre Dame in their own game. I do agree. I think it's going to come down to the final drive, but I think it's got to be flipped. I think it's going to be Carson Beck's going to have to throw the football. And I like the situation where our pass defense has to stop Carson Beck. More of I like the situation of we have to hold Miami from running the football. I could definitely see it being like we go up we score a touchdown and we're up 17-13 or 17-14. And then we're kind of like we go back and forth for a little bit. And then it's kind of like the Ohio State game. We get that stop. We get that stop with 3 minutes left. And then we can't get the first down because not saying we run a stupid play, but Miami knows we're going to run the football. So we don't get the first down, and then Miami has to drive. And I like our cornerbacks in that situation. I like our pass rush. It's got to be everything that we're good at is what Miami's going to attack. So I like that way. I think that's the way it's got. And I think it'll be, if it's that 17-13, it'll be like 24-20, 24-21. I think it's got to end up being the final drive. I see it being like that.
Yeah.
I also think it'll be 0-0 at the end of the first quarter, plus 700 on DraftKings. If anyone wants to ride that with me, let me know. We're riding that 0-0 first quarter.
So I do think if it rains, I think that favors Notre Dame a little bit more just because I think I'm not saying Miami's not a physical team and they don't have the talent to play that style of game. I just think that Notre Dame is a team that's built off of they want to drag the opposing team into a slugfest, rock fight in the mud, haymaker in the trenches. They want to make it a trench warfare. Notre Dame doesn't want to make things a track meet. Notre Dame's not comfortable in a track meet. And the thing is, though, I do think that Miami does. I don't think it's best for Miami to try to make it a track meet either, because I don't think that Notre Dame's defense, at least their pass defense, is one of the best in the country with new receivers. Carson Beck coming off that injury, only really having the last couple of months to kind of gain that chemistry. I don't necessarily know if you want Carson Beck throwing the ball 30 plus, 40 plus times and throwing against that elite secondary, because it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is, the more dropbacks you have, the more chances you are to throw an interception or have something go wrong. And I do think Miami's going to try to make it a rock fight of the game. My biggest thing and where I think Notre Dame wins this game is, one, I think the depth differential between the two teams in the second half, kind of like what we saw against A&M, where with how good Nick Scourton was, with how good Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner were on that defensive line in the first half, great. Second half, hands on hips, puking on the sideline, tired, gassed, getting leaned on later on in that fourth quarter. Notre Dame's offensive line was just pushing them into the dirt. Like, I just see that eventually happening. And I think that's where the difference comes. And then I think when it gets to that situation, I could see Shane Dawson, because this is one thing that Miami fans have told me last year, was he would go away from the run game and get a little impatient and want to air it out. And I could see him going away from the game plan and saying, oh, crap, we're down. Our defense is tired. Let's air this ball out. And then I think that's where you could get into some trouble. And I think it's going to be a one-score game. I don't think it's going to be blowout of any sort. I think it's going to be a one-score game throughout. I think Notre Dame wins by 10. I got it 27-17. And that's only because I think they're down 7. Your defense is gassed. Shane Dawson tries airing it out. Carson Beck maybe forces something, throws a game-sealing interception, and Notre Dame kicks a field goal to kind of put the game to bed late. But I do think it's going to be a good game. Anybody out here saying that it's going to be a blowout on either side, just to me, you don't know football. I think both of these teams are at least top 15 teams, right? And I think
both these teams are playoff teams, if you ask me.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited.
Fravel, your prediction is last year's A&M game?
Basically. Well, we won that game, 23-13?
Yeah, we won. It was something like that. Like we got the big stop, and then we ended up kicking a field goal. Yeah, something.
Which
like
Christian Gray was the one that got the big stop.
That is true. But that was on an inside route, not a go route.
Yeah. Don't throw. Yeah.
If you sent CJ Daniels on a go route, we're fucked.
Yeah,
because Christian Gray's like, oh, I got this.
Have just put JoJo on a slant, then Christian Gray will be good.
Oh yeah, JoJo on a slant.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you hopping in here, Jaden. It's been nice to talk ball with you, man. So let the people know where they can find you at, what you guys got going on over there at the Voice of College Football Miami.
Thank you. Likewise, I had a great time talking to you guys today. You guys are really good. You're great at your jobs. Appreciate you guys. Me and my co-host Shay McDonald, we go on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, Miami Primetime Live. You can find us there. I also run the call-in show on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find me there. And then if you want to check out any of my Miami stuff, I'm one of the editors on the newspaper at themiamihurricane.com. You can check me out there, and on Twitter at Jaden A. Gonzalez. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Appreciate you hopping in here, man. Really quick before we end it here, Voice of College Football now has merch. So make sure you go over to the Voice of College Football. The link is in the banner down below. The ticker, voiceofcollegefootball.com/shop. Use promo code Voice of College Football Notre Dame. That's VOCFB Notre Dame. Same thing with Jaden's channel, Voice of College Football VOCB Miami. Go get you guys some new hats, some nice shirts they got over there. The guys over Voice of College Football did a lot of work for that. Make sure you go over there and support Voice of College Football. Again, shout out to Jaden for hopping in here. Shout out to the 243 people that are currently watching. Go over to the Voice of College Football Notre Dame, Voice of College Football Miami. Drop a sub, like, comment. Go show some love to our boy Jaden over there. As always, great show. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, same time, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also be doing our call-in show, first ever, next week on Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Notre Dame Primetime Live at the Voice of College Football for your host, Ryan Fravel. For my co-host Ben and my special guest Jaden, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Stay safe and go Irish.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.